So good day! Napakagandang araw naman ito para pag-usapan ng Filipinization of personality theory, no? Ako si George Crisando Tana, your host for today. But first, let me introduce to you the guest for today, and we have 5 beautiful ladies that will be sharing their knowledge about the Filipinization of the personality theory. And they are Miss Princess May Arellano, Miss Alexandria Denise Balyado, Miss Diana Marie Mendiola, and Miss Angel Seferin Salvador. Today, they will share their knowledge of what are some indigenous aspects we have as a Filipino and what are the effects of pakikiramdam and other Filipino attributes as a whole. But how can we indigenize the concept of personality theory? I have a question. How can we distinct if a trait is a unique Filipino trait? Let's ask someone.
For me, every country has its differing values and stereotypes, and the Philippines is no exception. We Filipinos firmly believe that our country has the best value and traits in the world, like for example, being respectful and courteous. This is often observed not just by the younger people, but also by people of all ages. Well, children respect elders by saying po at opo, which means yes, when answering their elders. Children or young adults also show respect by putting their elders' hands on their forehead, or in Tagalog, we call it mano po. And Filipinos also show respect at work by making a bow to their employers. That's all.
Wow! Very Filipino nga ang trait na yon. As you can see, one of that is related and embodied to us Filipinos. First off, we should discuss the indigenous identity and colonial image of the Filipino inclined with our history. And let's give a round of applause for our first guest, Miss Angel Seferin Salvador. Yay!
Thank you, Kristen, for introducing me. Allow me, everyone, to introduce to you the topic that is assigned to me. It is the Filipino indigenous identity and the colonial image of the Filipino. Let's start with pakikipagkapwa. The idea of the shared self opens up the heart doors of the I to include the others. Hindi mahalaga dito kung ikaw ay mayaman o mahirap, ang iyong civil status. Ang mas mahalaga ay ikaw ay tao na may edad, may diploma, ang iyong kulay at ang iyong mga koneksyon. May mga konsepto ang pakikipagkapwa at nabubuo nga ang pakikipagkapwa kung ikaw ay may bagong nakikilala, pagkakaroon ng kaibigan, pagkakaroon ng best friend, pagkilala sa iyong soulmate, at maaring potensyal na kasintahan. Ang kapwa ay isang tinatawag sa wikang English na shared identity. And it is also the unity of one of us and the other. According to Virgilio Enriquez, who declared the concept of a Filipino core value, and kapwa meaning is togetherness, is a core construct of the Filipino psychology. Kapwa in Filipino core value. Filipino language provides a conceptual direction in several levels and modes of social interactions or antas ng pagtutunguhan. There is 8 behavioral recognizable levels under 2 general categories in Filipino were identified bilang ibang tao and hindi ibang tao. There are 5 interaction levels under this category. First is pakikitungo, civility. In Confucian ethics, right behavior meant right demeanor towards authorities, like in our parents, in how they are authority to us, and how they respect them. Second is pakikisalamuha, act of mixing. This is a social value that is primarily communitarian and confusion. It exposed the ability to adapt. We, as a Filipino, we used to adapt, especially for a good example to this is the OFW. Di ba kapag lumilipat or nasa ibang bansa ang ating mga OFW, they try to blend with them. They try to adapt the culture and respect their culture. Example na lang is kapag nasa Dubai, 'di ba? Yung damit na suot nila is pang-Muslim o naka-hijab sila. And hindi naman tayong mga Pilipino is naka-hijab. But some of our Filipino, they used to wear hijab. And third, is pakikilahok, act of joining. This translates the participation of the entire community to help of a person. Good example to this is pagbayanihan. Being a Filipino, we used to help. We used to help others, especially if there is a need. We used to give a helping hand to them, especially if there is someone like pag may nasalanta ng bagyo, madaming donation drive na nagagawa, madaming mga relief goods ang mga nalilikom at naipamimigay sa mga nasalanta ng bagyo or kung anumang sakunang nangyari. And nagkaroon din, 'di ba, ng tulong or mahilig tayong tumulong sa kapwa natin kahit walang-wala na tayo, pero nagagawa pa din nating magbigay ng tulong sa kanila. And fourth is pakikibagay. Conformity. This runs into in conflict with individuality, which may Filipino in fact willingly throw away in favor of conformity with demands of those who are in charge. Dahil nga nakikibagay tayo kahit na labag sa loob natin or hindi tayo komportable ay ginagawa natin. Like, kung bago ka sa isang community and naninibago ka sa kanila, you used to makibagay or nakikibagay ka sa kanila. Ginagawa mo yung mga ginagawa nila, and kahit na hindi mo siya totally ginagawa is gagawin mo talaga siya. Or like sa pagkain, kung ikaw ay galing taga Maynila and hindi ka sanay sa pagkain makikita mo sa probinsya, is maninibago ka talaga at hahanapin mo yung mga pagkain na nakakain mo sa syudad or sa Manila. And lastly is pakikisama, adjusting, being united with the group. We adjust as a Filipino to different race. Like, if may mga foreigners na dumadayo sa ating lugar, hindi naman natin sila kinakausap ng Tagalog lang or sa ating language. We used to translate it in English para syempre naiintindihan nila at mas naiintindihan natin kung ano man yung gusto nilang iparating. And for hindi ibang tao o one of us, there are 3 interaction levels under this category. It is pakikipagpalagayan ng loob or act of mutual trust or pagkakaroon ng tiwala sa isa't isa. Pakikisangkot or act of joining others. Or parang siyang pakikipagtulungan kasi nakikisangkot ka sa isang bagay na hindi ka naman damay. And lastly is pakikiisa, being one with others or fusion. Pakikiisa is you try to blend with them and parang isang pamilya na kayo kung magturingan.
So ako na naman ulit, no? Syempre ako ang host, wala kayong magagawa. Char. I-discuss ko ngayon sa inyo ang role of language. So, language has played a very crucial role for us as a mediator for communication. Our language, or Filipino language, was an indigenous medium used for exploring and discovering our indigenous concepts. We use our own language, and one may observe that hiya or utang na loob, and pakikisama is the most observed surface values prominent among us. This tree is the recognized surface values and is a set of external characteristics only which is rooted into a core value of the Filipino personality, which is termed as kapwa. The use of our indigenous language or Filipino language led to identification of primary precondition or requirement in existence of the said surface values, which is the thought and principle of pakikiramdam. And this value acts as the pivot that mediates the three surface values from the core value. And this generally means that a person that doesn't have pakiramdam cannot inhibit the three surface values or yung utang na loob, hiya, and pakikisama. This value system is portrayed in the Filipino concept of masamang tao, which embodies someone na hindi nag-exhibit nung tatlong surface values. And the lack of these three are labeled as walang pakisama or unable to adjust in any situation, walang hiya or lack of shame or decency, and walang utang na loob is absence of reciprocal values, honors, and kindness. And generally, walang pakiramdam or numb is in a sense is the worst as it entails the relations with insufficiency or shortage of empathy towards others. Furthermore, Enriquez said in 1978 na ang walang kapwa-tao as an individual that have hidden the rock bottom or napakasamang tao na, or he or she is the worst. The surface values can be derived in different cultures. The importance related with pakikiramdam is defined by cultural rules. In our country, kapwa is the basis of all our values. Kapwa that doesn't act as a Filipino person's personality but also the personhood or pagkatao, and lack of this does not entails being a Filipino and ceases and ends to be a human. And that wraps up the role of language. Pero ano nga bang totoong aspeto ng pakikiramdam and how is it called to be so Filipino? Take it away for our next guest, Miss Alexandria Denise Balyado. Big round of applause, everyone!
So, good afternoon to each and everyone. I'm Alex Balyado, and before I begin with my topic, I just have some questions for you. It's for everyone actually, but I think the host will likely to answer this. So guys, may malakas ka ba na pakiramdam sa paligid mo, or malakas ka ba makaramdam sa paligid mo? Pero hindi to, I'm not pertaining to multo or something, ha? It's more like sa mga nangyayari sa paligid mo. Aware ka ba, na nakakaramdam ka ba, na kung ano yung mga nangyayari, ganun. Yung mga non-verbal cues. Kung meron bang may ayaw sa'yo, or may kalala ka bang ganun. So, I'll give you guys 3 to 5 seconds to think lang, diba?
So, thank you for that wonderful question, Miss Balyado. I think ako, nakikiramdam naman ako, marunong naman ako makiramdam, pero hindi ko alam minsan, hindi ko ba alam, parang yung mga tao sa akin, hindi ko alam kung may hidden gems ba sila, may hidden na takot, may inis, may lungkot, may hinanakit sa akin. Pero, I think, kapag I feel that I am not welcome, ako na mismo yung lumalayo, nararamdaman ko naman yun, and nararamdaman ko rin if kapag ako yung pinapatamaan, kapag ako yung dapat mapagsabihan, ganon, and that's it. Thank you for that wonderful question, candidate number 2, Char.
So, okay, the reason why I asked you about pakiramdam is because it is the center of my topic for today, and as we all know naman na lahat tayo as a Pilipino, 'di ba? May paniniwala tayo na meron tayong malakas na pakiramdam kasi meron ba sa ating manhid, or meron bang taong manhid or nagmamanhid-manhidan lang? 'Di ba? So to begin with, let's define first ano nga ba talaga ang pakiramdam o pakikiramdam. We have three definition here of pakikiramdam by. So first we have Strobel, and for her, pakikiramdam is the capacity for compassion, empathy, and sympathy. So simple to say, for her, pakikiramdam is the key or the way to feel compassion, empathy, and sympathy to other individual. And while Virgilio Enriquez, for him naman, pakikiramdam is the pivotal value of shared inner perception. It refers to heightened awareness and sensitivity. So, para naman kay Virgilio, yung pakikiramdam daw, it requires to have a heightened awareness and sensitivity to make a connection or to have a shared inner perception to other individuals. So, and then lastly, we have mataragnon, which is pakikiramdam is a covert individual process by which a person tries to feel and understand the feelings of and intentions of another. Kumbaga, through pakikiramdam daw, nararamdaman or nalalaman ng isang individual kung anong nararamdaman and para maintindihan kung anong nararamdaman ng ibang tao. Okay? So, with the three definitions of pakikiramdam, it is simple to say again that pakikiramdam is a non-active and dynamic involving great care and deliberation, like paying attention to subtle cues and nonverbal behavior and employing mental role-playing. It means to feel for another, like literally, pakikiramdam is a request to feel or to be sensitive to, because pakikiramdam nga is a shared feeling of two individuals or by persons. Okay, so example for this is you are newly introduced to a group of friends, and that group of friends is a friend lang ng best friend mo, ganun. May best friend ka, pero may group of friends siya na hindi mo kilala. And then, since na-request ng BFF mo or ng best friend mo na to get to know the people around her, para na rin lumawak yung connection mo sa world and magkaroon ka ng a new set of friends, then the day na pinakilala ka niya sa kanila, hindi mo muna pinakita yung totoong self mo kasi pinakikiramdaman mo muna sila if paano ba sila as a person and as friends. Kumbaga, you are in that stage na iniisip mo pa or pinakikiramdaman mo pa yung mga possible thoughts nila about you based on their behavior towards you, like kung same vibe ba kayo or dislike ka ba ng isa sa kanila kasi hindi ka pinansin or kinausap, mga ganun. And that is pakikiramdam. To kapwa. And to further understand this concept, let's proceed to the definition and interrelation of kapwa and pakiramdam. So, we have here the definition of kapwa, when we all know naman na kapwa in English means others, but while in Filipino, it is the unity of self and others. Like, kapwa is a recognition of shared identity of self and others. Kapwa, it's a concept that combined the self and other. Like, the sharing of the self was a common trait among us Filipinos. Kapwa is made up of the core of the Filipino personality, which should be called personhood rather than as personality. So, when in English or in Western culture, they treat or they called kapwa as just like others. Pero sa ating mga Pilipino, sinasabi dito na ang kapwa daw is merong about ourselves and from others. It's the combination of ourselves and others. So with the definition of pakikiramdam and kapwa, pakikiramdam is a social skill highly valued among us Filipinos who are known to expressing ourselves as much non-verbally as verbally. This enables us to sense what our kapwa feels because it allows us to have an awareness of non-verbal cues sent by others. Although, as we shall see later, this sensing or pakikiramdam may actually come about by being attentive to one's own inner cues. In this sense, so pakikiramdam can be viewed nga as a skill associated with high emotional intelligence. It is the ability to sense and feel what another person feels if the other does not explicitly state that feeling or is attempting to hide it. So we Filipinos, we have that kind of trait no, na alam ko lahat tayo dito nakaka-relate kasi meron tayong trait na kung saan kapag naiinis tayo or kapag may ayaw tayo, hindi talaga natin siya sinasabi. Alam niyo yun, yung i-behave mo na lang talaga, i-action mo na lang na, halimbawa, pinaghugas ka ng pinggan ng nanay mo pero ayaw mo maghugas, di ba? Pero maghuhugas ka kasi mama mo yan inutusan ka, hindi mo pwedeng sumayan. So, ang gagawin mo, papakita mo yung pagkaayaw mo sa paghuhugas mo sa pagdadabog, 'di ba? Magdadabog ka, babagsak mo yung mga pinggan, ganyan. And then yung mami mo ngayon, iisipin niya na napakiramdaman niya na nagdadabog yung anak ko kasi ayaw niya maghugas, pinaghugas ko siya. There's something like that. And in a way, that's pakikiramdam, because it is the ability nga to sense and feel what another person feels if the other does not explicitly state that feeling or is attempting to hide it. Another example is kapag sa magjowa, yung biglang may pinagselosan pala si girl, ganon, tapos hindi alam ni boy kasi may kumausap sa kanya tapos nakita pala ng jowa niya, ganon. So, malalaman niya yun na nagselos yung jowa niya kasi biglang magagalit, ganon, or sabihin sa kanya na dun ka na lang kaya, ganon. Alam niya yung mga pabebeng ganon. And that's true pakikiramdam. So, pakikiramdam allow Filipinos to recognize the importance of others because without the other, it would not be possible to have a transpersonal sense of something great, diba? Kasi through pakikiramdam, it makes us realize, the worth of another individual kasi nare-recognize natin kung ano yung mga nararamdaman nila, gano'n, napapahalagahan natin. And that's and binibigyan nila tayo ng awareness sa kung ano yung dapat hindi gawin. So, pakikiramdam makes relationship interesting and necessary. Yun nga kasi through pakikiramdam, it builds and connects relationships. So now we have here in the positive aspects of pakikiramdam. So first we have pakikiramdam makes Filipinos more flexible and enables them to adapt quickly to changing situations. So sinasabi na tayo ng mga Pilipinos dahil nga sa may malakas tayong pakikiramdam or awareness sa ating mga kapwa, it makes us madiskarte and flexible, ganon. We're very adaptable sa mga changing situations. Alam niyo yun. And then, number 2, pakikiramdam makes relationships smoother because hurtful criticisms are held back. So, ito nga is nasabi ko na through pakikiramdam, it makes us aware, diba, sa mga hindi dapat sabihin o sa mga piling dapat lang sinasabi kasi nararamdaman na nga natin na hindi yun yung angkop for that situation, Kaya ito din yung naiiwasan yung mga conflict through kapwa. And through pakikiramdam, it builds similarities and common interests. Then, third aspect, positive aspect, we have pakikiramdam is a good training for emotional intelligence. Ayun nga, ang pakikiramdam is a training siya for to enhance our emotional intelligence because as we all know, emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of our surroundings or to control and express one's emotions or to handle interpersonal relationships. So, para tumaas or ma-enhance yung emotional intelligence natin, it is through pakikiramdam. Through practicing pakikiramdam, our emotional intelligence is nagle-level up. So, and then lastly, we have pakikiramdam, oath to make Filipinos more open-minded, especially regarding other cultures. So, since tumataas nga yung awareness natin through pakikiramdam, tayong mga Pilipinos, talagang open-minded tayo, especially sa mga ibang culture, kasi naiintindihan natin kung bakit ganun yung behavior ng iba and kung ano yung kultura ng iba. So, and then for the next slide, I'll be discussing the negative aspects of pakikiramdam. We're here at the negative aspects of pakikiramdam. We have 4. I listed 4. 1, pakikiramdam may encourage hypocrisy kasi sometimes 'di ba, pag sinabi mong pakiramdam ko ayaw niya sa akin, pakiramdam ko inggit siya sa akin, baka mamaya ikaw la pala yung inggit sa kanya. Mamaya ikaw pala yung may ayaw sa kanya. Kumbaga dinadahilanan mo na lang na pakiramdam mo kasi ganun din siya. And this leads to number 2, pakikiramdam may encourage gossip. Dahil nga sa pakiramdam mo, inis siya sa'yo, ganun, masyado kang nagtitiwala sa pakiramdam mo, na yun yung behavior niya pinapakita ng isang tao sa'yo, it tends to gossip. It tends to share to another person na ganito tong isang taong to sa'yo, kahit hindi naman, it's just your pakiramdam. And then, thirdly, connected pa rin siya because intuitions based on pakikiramdam may be mistaken. Yun nga, di ba? Kasi hindi naman lahat ng nararamdaman mo na maaaring behavior sa'yo ng isang tao or ng perception ng isang tao is totoo. Kasi sometimes, kung ano yung pinapakita nating behavior is the opposite of what we really are. Diba? Kaya sometimes, it is really mistaken. And connected pa rin siya sa pang-apat na communication patterns based on pakikiramdam could be confusing kasi ito ay nagkakos na lang ng confusion kapag yung puro silent and non-verbal cues na lang yung nagiging signal or way of communications, 'di ba? And hindi naman accurate yung pakikiramdam or yung nare-realize natin na nararamdaman ng isang tao. And that is to sum up my discussion of pivotal aspect of kapwa of pakikiramdam. So, and I believe that we all learn something about what is really pakikiramdam and its connection to kapwa. And that is all. Thank you very much for listening.
At siyang maraming aspects ng pakikiramdam when it comes to us Filipinos, no? Now, let's further elaborate pakikiramdam by discussing its centrality and domain. Let's give it up for Miss Princess May Arellano. Palakhak naman dyan!
Nasabihan ka na ba ng, uy, makiramdam ka naman? Do you ever wonder what it really means to practice pakikiramdam? Hi, I am Princess May Arellano, and I'll be talking with you about the centrality of pakikiramdam in behavioral and interpersonal domains. As we previously talked about pakikiramdam as the pivotal aspect of kapwa, now let's talk about pakikiramdam in behavioral and interpersonal domains. Ano nga ba ang pakikiramdam pagdating sa pag-uugali at pakikipag-ugnayan natin sa ating kapwa? Katulad ng nabanggit ni Alex kanina, pakikiramdam is the heightened awareness and sensitivity of others. Nakikiramdam ka. You can tell whether something is right or when something is wrong because you observe and feel the situation. It is the ability to tell whether or not a person is feeling a certain way despite saying things in contrary. Katulad ng pag may nagsabi na, okay lang ako. Pero ang totoo, hindi sila okay. Dahil tayong mga Pilipino, we have this behavior na parang hirap na hirap tayo sabihin ng diretso kung ano talaga yung nararamdaman natin. Kung hindi natin masabi ng diretso, minsan sasabihin natin yung kabaliktaran ng tunay na nararamdaman natin. Tulad ng pagsabi ng masaya ako, okay lang ako, hindi ako malungkot. Pero, ang totoo, malungkot talaga tayo. Kaya naman, we can call pakikiramdam as an emotional trait that comes with being a Filipino. Filipinos' pakikiramdam is further defined as pahiwatig, through which they express their emotions and desires in creative ways. By creative ways, I mean pagbibiro, paglambing, pagtampo. Those are all examples of pahiwatig. Kaya kung hindi talaga natin kayang sabihin ng diretso kung ano yung totoong nararamdaman natin, ginagawa na lang natin sa paraan ng pagbibiro or kaya pagtatampo.
Many unbearable hours later.
In order to avoid hurting or offending others, one must demonstrate empathy, which is related to the concept of pakikiramdam. Pakikiramdam operates behind all Filipino values, and because of this value, we are often viewed by foreigners as other-oriented because we tend to care more about what other people think, feel, and need. Pakikiramdam is a distinct social ability that is fundamental to Filipino identity. Kaya naman, pakiramdam tayo. Okay.
And lastly, andito na tayo sa exciting part. Our beautiful and fresh guest, Miss Diana Marie Mendiola, will discuss the compliant and confrontative attributes of us Filipinos that will discuss some of our unique traits. Amoy ulam na ba kayo? Palakpakan naman dyan!
Alright, thank you, Kristan. So, guys, do you know that Filipinos are very popular for our values and cultures? Of course you do. So, let me ask you some question. When was the last time you feel hiya, utang na loob, and pakikisama? And what is your opinion for bahala na, lakas ng loob, and pakikibaka? Give me some short opinion.
siguro sa hiya, yung huling beses na nakaramdam ako ng hiya is nung time na nagkaroon ng introduce yourself kami sa isang class and we have to say one interesting fact about ourselves and wala akong nasagot doon. So, hindi ko alam kung anong mas nakakahiya, either yung wala akong nasagot or yung wala akong maisip na interesting fact ko sa sarili ko.
The last time I feel hiya is when I ask a favor to look up to my fur baby or to take care of her for almost 5 days because we have a trip in Palawan, and it feels like utang na loob that I need to I'm not in debt, but I need to repay the good deed they do. And pakikisama is every time I meet another people or new people, I need to do is pakisamahan sila, and syempre kilalanin muna yung person before judging them.
Alright. Okay, thank you. So, these are some Filipino traits that we encounter in our daily lives. So, hi, my name is Diana Mendiola, and I'm here to elaborate on the Filipino values that Enriquez, the father of the Psikologiyang Filipino, studied. So, we all know that Enriquez is the father of Psikologiyang Filipino, and he is very critical of his approach to the study of Filipino values. So, the basic tenets of Psikologiyang Filipino, according to him, have several values. First is the accommodative service value. So, in these Filipino values, they are expected by their neighbors to repay favors when they are required or desired, whether or not they were asked for. So, using Psikologiyang Filipino perspective, Enriquez reconceptualized the Filipino behavior patterns and value structure. where he designated the word hiya. Hiya is a propriety of dignity. So it is loosely translated as shame. By most Western psychology, it is actually a sense of propriety. So the word hiya is the uncomfortable feeling in a social unacceptable situation. For example, when a student is scolded in front of the other people in the room. To add the negativity of this interpretation of hiya, Andres 1994 described hiya as an ingredient in white Filipino overspend during a fiesta in order to please their visitors, even though the extent of going into debt. The next word is utang na loob, or gratitude or solidarity. It is a norm of reciprocity. So, Filipinos are expected by their neighbors to return favors whether this was asked for or not, when it's needed or wanted. So, ang utang na loob is not a debt system but a responsibility for the greater good. And it may have a negative connotation, but during the pandemic, Filipinos gave the praise a new meaning as they banded together to support our frontliners, students, and other sectors. So, by enabling their customers to fulfill their sense of responsibility, their respective communities, brands can become a platforms for a change. It is a beautiful element of Filipino interpersonal relationship that binds a person to his or her home or home country. In fact, this is the expressed in a popular Filipino saying, ang hindi lumingon sa pinagalingan ay hindi makakarating sa paroroonan. Utang na loob is calling heard by many Filipinos who go to other lands but who still retain strong ties with their homeland. Next word is pakikisama and pakikipagkapwa. So this is the smooth interpersonal relationship as coined by Lynch in 1961 and 1973. So this attitude is primarily guided by conformity with the majority. So in pakikisama, companionship or team is not just conformity, but pakikipagkapwa to make a difference. So Enriquez explained that Filipinos are quick to help others even if they themselves are in need. So we find solace, inspiration, and purpose from our friends, family, and workmates. Enriquez, 1978 and 1994, started unfolding the concept of kapwa, or shared identity, which is the core value of Filipino social psychology. He discovered that it is not maintaining smooth interpersonal relationships that Filipinos are most concerned with, but pakikipagkapwa, which means treating other fellow as human beings. Next values, we have confrontative surface values. It is refers to the ability of the Filipino to undertake revolution and uprising against common enemy. So, under confrontative surface value, we have the word bahala na. This is an attitude loosely translated into English as fatalistic passiveness, and actually describe the Filipino way of life, in which he is determined to do his best, and it came from the phrase "bathala na," meaning I will do my best and let the God take care of the rest. And the word bahala na or determination, this is not fatalism, but adding courage through faith. So the role of the divine is deeply engaged in Filipino culture. So some argue that Filipinos rely on the intervention of higher power, like the word bahala na si Lord, to make things right, running responsibility. So bahala na is not registration, rather a final summoning of courage before a certain recurring point, according to Enrique's study. The next word is lakas ng loob. So, lakas ng loob, which is characterized by being courageous in the midst of problems and uncertainties. So, ang lakas ng loob is a resentment or courageous. And this is not just a strength, but a thriving in adversity, refusing to stay down. Many Filipinos turn to online sources not only to survive but to be better themselves in the pandemic. So many pursued skilling through online and through webinars and online tutorials, and some bravely started a new business to generate more income for their families. So more than just self promotion, through communication, brands must provide avenues for consumers to express their inner strength, especially when we encounter challenges. Dito din lumalabas yung lakas ng loob nating mga Filipinos. Relate ba kayo? The last is the pakikibaka. So it means concurrent clashes. It refers to the ability of the Filipino to undertake revolutions and uprisings against a common enemy. So in pakikibaka, this is not just an activism, but a desire to change the world. So in his studies, Enriquez found that pakikibaka is not just for activists, but for all the Filipinos. And tinatawag din itong pakikipaglaban, makikipaglaban, and the consumer or we consumer of all ages are enjoying brands to join their crusade in changing the world for the better. So, study from the Global Web Index says that nearly 60% of consumers agree that brands should have more initiative help them during this difficult time. And that's all. I hope you learned something, guys.
Samot-saring traits pa lang mayroon tayo na deeply rooted sa kapwa, no? Now, to wrap up our Chicana show for today's video, we have learned all the aspects of the personality theory in the indigenous setting on us Filipinos. We have so many different traits that distinct our kin to another. These traits distinct our personality as a Filipino individual collectively and is common among us in the present days. Aspects such as pakikisama, pakikiramdam, pakikipagkapwa, and more describes how Filipino behavior emerged from our cultures and traditions. And that is all for today's episode. Bye!